work was to extract a renderColor function out of this. Handle submit is just doing too darn much. It's doing a lot more than just handling the submit. So to figure out what all it's doing, we have to pretty much read the entire thing and try to figure it out. Nice thing about having multiple functions that each have descriptive names is it almost becomes self-documenting at a point. Like if render list were practically all that were in here, you could see, okay, well, how does it handle the submit? It renders a dang list. You want to know more about how the list is rendered, you go to that function and look at that. And you'll see it repeatedly calls render list item. How does it build the list item? Well, if it's a color, then it calls this renderColor thing and builds a div. So each little piece also becomes very easy to test. You can test how we build this div and whether the div is getting created correctly without having the whole rest of the thing built, without even having a form on the page. So that would have been a swell way to do it. So we're going to just do it now. Why not? So the homework even said what to call your function. So let's make a function up here called renderColor. Now, how are we going to use this thing? I'm trying to figure out if we need an arguments list. What information does this function need from the outside in order to determine how to build its div? And keep in mind, renderColor's only job is to create a div of a certain color. It knows nothing about a form. It doesn't know where the color's coming from. It just knows it needs to make a div that is that color. So should it take an argument? What information does it need to decide how to build that div? It needs the color, right? So we'll pass in a color. Then it's going to do something very similar to what we did down here. We're going to build a div. I'll just copy these for right this minute. We're going to build a div using createElement. We're going to set the background color of that div to the color that was passed in as the argument, which we just called color. And we're going to give it a width and we're going to give it a height. Does it work? I'm not going to bother updating handle submit to call this yet. I'm just going to test this function by itself. Now that it's there, I should be able to refresh the page and just call renderColor. renderColor, sure, good old cornflower blue. Uh-oh, it says undefined. What'd I do? I wanted a div. What'd I do? Why did I get undefined? I didn't return anything, right? It created that div somewhere. Let's return it. Return color div. Now, if I'd gone ahead and called color div from down there and done a few more steps, that would have been harder to troubleshoot. But since I tested it in isolation, I could see right away it didn't return a darn thing. So it was a little easier to hunt down. So test early and often. Let's try it again. renderColor cornflower blue, and I get back div style background color cornflower blue width 6 rem, height 3 rem. Beautiful. Just what I'm looking for. So now we don't want to do this here. Instead, where before we had this variable color div, we could just call renderColor and pass in. We still have favorite color saved to a variable here, right? Pass in favorite color. Certainly doesn't matter that this argument is called favorite color here and color up here, right? This is just a local variable inside this function, handle submit. And this is just what we internally are calling the argument inside our renderColor function. They do not have to match. Of course, this could have just been a string like that, right? Does it still work when we do it this way? Yay, still works. I like it. It's a small thing, but Let's go ahead and celebrate our win here. Let's commit it. It is now in our working copy. We want to add it to our index, to our staging area. Extract renderColor function. Oops. What happened? No changes added to commit. I forgot to add. I said out loud we want to add it to our staging area, but then that's not what I typed. So git add dot. Then git commit. Very good. Git push so that it's also on GitHub. Now we didn't change the way the program works at all, did we? We just code. So we refactored it. Refactoring is changing the code without changing the behavior to make it more readable, more maintainable, to support future development, whatever. So what we did is called refactoring. Questions so far?